Live now in the studio is 2GB and 4BC for me, host Ben Fordham. Good to see you.
2GB and 4BC for me. You've been playing the competition we're running at the moment.
It works well.
I know you're a loyal listener.
Good to see you,
How
Ben.
are you?
I'm very good. Keeping a very close eye on Canberra. It's only 2 sitting weeks into this year and already it's been overrun. The agenda of the government's been overrun by infighting once again. After the last 10 years, you'd think this was all behind us, but the Nationals cannot seem to get it together. There's a story on the front page of the Courier Mail today that goes into using taxpayer funds for travel, etc. That is an important story, but I think the most significant thing about this is the leak against Michael McCormack.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what happens, right? The moment people sense that there's blood in the water, then the sharks all circle. And Michael McCormack, he's only got a matter of time. I just hope for the government's sake that that time is a short amount of time and not a long period of time. Because if this drags out, I think Dennis Shanahan wrote yesterday in The Australian, there's a chance that this virus spreads as well. And we've already seen this week that Anthony Albanese in Question Time, it hasn't been about the National Party, it's about the coalition, it's about the government being unstable. And so this will be around Scott Morrison's neck, even though he's the leader of the Liberal Party and Michael McCormack is the so-called leader of the National Party. I feel sorry for Michael McCormack because he's a really decent bloke, really lovely fella. But there are lots of nice people out there who just cannot cut the mustard when it comes to getting the job done. And I've had some personal experience with him. I remember when he ran the census. Remember, he was in charge of putting the census online and then the whole thing fell apart. Remember, there was like a blackout and too many people, surprise, surprise, logged on at once. And I ripped into him on air. And then I received a message from him, a text message introducing himself, saying maybe we should catch up. I said, OK. So I said, why don't we? I suggested a pub that was near. Yeah, suggested a pub that was near my work. So I caught up with him there, and I said, I ordered a beer. I had that terribly embarrassing thing when you order a beer, and then he said, "Oh, can I get a latte?" I said, "Oh, whoops." I felt like there was something wrong with me. So I ran across the road and got him a latte. Really nice bloke, lovely guy. So I feel terrible saying this, but he cannot lead. He's a hopeless leader. He's got zero cut through as far as getting people to actually know who the guy is. And, Barnaby Joyce wasn't perfect. I think we all know that. Barnaby's got so many flaws.
Yep.
And do they go back to Barnaby? I mean, I'd be interested in your take on this. You've spent more time in Canberra than me. Do you go back to Barnaby? Or, as Dennis Shanahan floated with me yesterday on air, he said, is David Littleproud the middleman between this, where it's not going back to Barnaby? All of a sudden my Alexa is hearing me, Siri's hearing me say something. Or do you stick with Michael McCormack? They can't stick with McCormack, can they?
My take on this is that you can't just keep on having leadership challenges until you get the outcome you want.
You can.
Agitating for change.
Yeah, you can.
Well, we've had 10 years of it. Aren't people a bit
all I'm saying is the problem is the system allows it. They set up a system, did they not, in the Labor Party to say, OK, we need to put something in place to stop this from happening.
Well, that's right, but Michael McCormack tried to change the party rules like the Liberal Party did at the end of last year, and there was almost a mutiny, even talk about changing the party rules at the end of last year. So that was quickly dropped like a hot potato. You've now got Lou O'Brien, who's sitting on the crossbench. He's kind of quit the party, but still in the LNP. Now has been rewarded with 40 grand more a year as Deputy Speaker. And so you have 20 Nats in the party room voting for any leadership challenge. Now, those that support Barnaby say that vote was so close that it was 11-10. I don't believe that for a second. I think it was a much larger gap.
Yeah, but you got Barnaby Joyce on the back bench, Bridget McKenzie on the back bench.
That's right.
You've got Matt Canavan now on the back bench.
But using the wrong playbook, you've got to reward and put a peace deal out there. You've got to reward people who did not back you, and that is the only way you're going to
but, there's also, do we have it within us to realise when we, as individuals, aren't the best person for the job?
Sure, but
I mean, in politics, no one seems to have that. No one seems to have that moment where they look themselves in a mirror. I know when I was first offered a chance to do my own radio show 7 or 8 years ago, and the radio station said to me, we'll offer you a 2-year contract. And I said, why don't we make it 1 year? And they went, why? And I said, because I might be terrible at it. And you don't want to be stuck with me for 2, right? I did. I thought to myself, and equally... No, and equally, I'm not. But equally, I didn't want to be there. I thought, I don't want to be there. If it works out that the listeners don't like listening to this show, and if it works out that that I'm no good at it, I don't want to be stuck here either.
Let's go back to this. You've got a very loud Nationals party, but only half of them wanted to see Barnaby Joyce back in, if you believe the numbers. If it was 11-10,
Sure.
for argument's sake. So still half the party doesn't want Barnaby Joyce.
Well, that's where
problem.
the David Littleproud maybe is the consensus candidate and slides through the middle. And I think the revelation today is significant, not only because of the leak, but and basically today the suggestion is that someone in Michael McCormack's office was texting other Nats to say this big centenary celebration we're having for the National Party in Melbourne, we'll also have a party room meeting in Melbourne while we're there. And someone texted McCormack's office to go, why are we having a party room meeting so soon after another one? And they said, oh, well, because that way it'll all be fine under travel entitlements. Now, this is a classic case of the magician revealing their trick. And the trick with travel rorts has always been, if you've got some business that you've got to go to, you've got the AFL Grand Final to go to or the Grand Prix, then you tie it to official parliamentary business, and therefore you can slug the taxpayer.
That's why this leak is so bad, don't you?
It is so bad.
A leader trying to really help a brother out.
No question.
Nat's brother and sisters out by trying to. I mean, I'm not endorsing it, by the way.
No.
I'm not condoning it.
But what it is, this is the stuff.
To make it easier for his colleagues, and they've ratted him out.
This is the stuff that happens behind the scenes. This is the stuff that we don't see behind the sheet when the magician's doing the trick, even though we all know it's going on. And they put it in writing. The text message said, the party room meeting is designed to ensure all members and senators have appropriate travel entitlements. In other words, we're going to slug the taxpayer so we can go to a party in Melbourne to celebrate ourselves, but we'll have a meeting on the Friday beforehand so that the taxpayer picks up the bill. It's wrong that this stuff happens. It should have been cleaned up a long time ago. They all do it. Whether they're wanting to go to a game of footy, they're wanting to go to some big event in another state and they just want someone else to pay for it. But it is also damaging because someone's using it as an opportunity clearly to go, you know what, McCormack's lost an arm and he's lost a leg, let's try and chop his head off.
Yep, he's a black knight at this point, so we'll see how he goes. Let's quickly finish on the Royals. We've got the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge coming out on a bushfire. Look, I've got no problem with it, but I'd rather see Harry and Meghan.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Why?
We have an official royal visit.
Oh, sorry.
From two endorsed royals,
yes.
Not the royal rejects who decided to walk out on the royal family and walk out on the Commonwealth and walk out on us. God love them. I'm sure they're lovely people. But, mate, they're not part of the royal family anymore. They chose their Megxit. They got it. And I think it'll be wonderful to have William and Catherine here. And I've got a real soft spot for Catherine Middleton. Well, not Kate. Catherine.
Well, it sounds like a long shot and a long-term pitch to get them on your show.
You guessed it.
I know how this works. Ben Fordham, great to have you on.
Thanks, Laura.
and 4BC.
Cheers.
And we'll see you this afternoon. We'll hear you this afternoon.
You'll hear me this afternoon. Cheers.